Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Cartwright, and to the witnesses for being here. I represent the Congressional District of North Dakota. And one of the things I want to get into is this whole issue of a one-size-fits-all national standard that we're talking about. And the closest thing to a country at the witness table would be Texas, of course. And I say that because Texas is a big place. And I would ask you, Commissioner, in Texas, do you have a statewide water standard, or do you treat West Texas differently than East Texas differently than? In other words, do you have different hydrological sort of understanding and methods and standards depending on where in Texas you're doing your work?
Well, right now, I think our best example is we do have a statewide casing rule that we've just passed. However, we have 10 field offices in the state, and there's lots of exemptions, because you are correct. If you're in East Texas, you have a lot of water over there. If you're in West Texas, we have about 11 to 14 shale plays over there, and there's a lot less water. In fact, we're in a drought in West Texas. South Texas is very different as well. So we do have allowances. We try to have a standard. However, it is very difficult to have that across the board in a state as big as we are. So I can't imagine how you do it in a country as large as we are.
Well, I think one of the great illustrations, and thank you for this, but I think this committee, the makeup of this committee, and certainly the makeup of this panel is Exhibit A as to why we don't need a minimum standard. And I'm sorry that my friend from California had to leave, because I think his point is an interesting point. He said something to the effect that my constituents want this minimum standard, and I don't doubt that they do. And in fact, they have one. It's called the California standard. And for that, they have high unemployment, they have a shrinking economy, they have 50% dependence on foreign oil, 25% on people on oil from Saudi Arabia and Iraq or Iran that have to ship it on big ships and has a greater carbon footprint than if they piped it from North Dakota or Texas. So they have their standard. Good for them. Good for them. But quite frankly, as I've said before, Mr. Chairman, I'm not really sure why we would want to have the federal government impose its mediocrity on the excellence of our states. I mean, in North Dakota, we meet all ambient air quality standards. We have some of the cleanest water in the country. We have some of the richest topsoil in the world that we use to feed hungry people. And frankly, the sustainability of that land is far, far more important to the people that have been there for a couple of hundred years and whose kin will be there for a couple hundred more. One other issue I want to explore just a little bit with regard to the EPA. I've noticed that there was reference to, I think Ms. Epstein referenced to one of the questions, something to the effect, she said, perhaps it could be interpreted. Perhaps it could be interpreted. In other words, the standard is the possibility of things. As scientists, as engineers, do we set regulations based on what's possible, or do we do as the EPA is doing in their hydraulic fracturing investigation, use what's possible as the standard to determine what we should not allow? That's a very different standard. Those are very different standards. And I think, frankly, if we used what's possible as a standard as opposed to say what's likely, or at least test the likelihood of it, we could stop pretty much everything from happening, because anything's perhaps possible. Could somebody speak to that standard of possible versus likely as a minimum standard? Perhaps Ms. Forster, you could begin.
Well, as an engineer on the panel, I guess I'm Mikey. We put all of our regulations into place, not just in the oil and gas industry, but in everything we do, based on something that has happened or that science says could happen. When the planet was created, when man hit the planet, we didn't have regulations. When this country came into place, we didn't have regulations. We have slowly built up our number of regulations based on science, based on facts, based on things that happen. And that's what we've got. We don't, if we put regulations in for things that might happen or that we're worried could happen, I wouldn't have flown a plane here today.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, my time is expiring, so I'll just wrap up by saying, you're right, and we've been trying to add to the Ten Commandments in the Constitution pretty regularly last couple of 100 years, and I don't think we've improved things much. So with that, my time's expired, Mr. Chairman.